Hello. I've just completed the first step of initiation into Hermetics by Mr. Franz Bardon. And when I say completed, I mean you have to give yourself a little bit of slack, right? I mean, you could always just stay on that. You could stay on that first step your whole life. Was my mind vacant enough? Did I visualize the one, image that I wanted to focus on purely enough without any interruption? Did I watch my thoughts diligently enough? Well, you're going to have to make a decision on that. And I made the decision that, I've been practicing meditation since 2014, thanks to this book, but I kind of just stayed hanging around that first step, and then things would get in the way, and I'm glad they did, because there was things that I needed to concentrate on, and apparently, experiences that were going to come my way, and it's not all fate and destiny, is it though? Sometimes life's just a fucking pain in the arse. But here we are, and what's the date today? Friday the 8th of May. Started on the 22nd of April, 8th of May. So yeah, not too bad. And I haven't got the book on me right now, but seeing as though I've been seeing it through every day, I'll try and remember all of the individual aspects. Get up in the morning, brush the body vigorously with a nice brush. Get all the your skin like all kind of ready, kind of goosebumps sticking up. Don't do your face though, otherwise you'll end up looking like a goddamn tomato. I kind of look like a tomato anyway at the moment, because it's out in this heat. Got a spot as well. I hate spots, piss me off. Anyway, you brush your body down, and when you get in the shower, you kind of use the cold water to kind of magnetize or draw out the bad feelings, the stuff that ain't too good. You let that kind of wash down the plug hole. And this is why you're gradually, you wash yourself obviously in your normal hot water, and then this is why you're gradually turning down the temperature, just to maybe across 2 or 3 different stages till your body can adjust. It's going to be a bit of a shock anyway, but it's amazing how you get used to it after a few days. Your skin does adjust to it. So once you've done your normal washing, just gradually turn it down until the water's literally just freezing cold, and you imagine it drawing out the impurities, and that goes down the plug hole. Obviously there's a little bit of ambiguity with all this kind of stuff. You kind of have to make a decision here and there, and kind of do things your own way a little bit. So if I say anything that doesn't tally with what is the consensus online, then tough. So after that, you turn the shower off, your body's freezing cold, and you will use that the coldness in terms of the water element. Basically, I would visualize the thing that I want to draw into my astral matrix, if you like, and use that opportunity there. Personally, I will do some sun salutations, just standing in the direction of where I think the sun is in that moment, or I might go into the bedroom and do that there. It doesn't have to be 100% strict, but what I do is every time I do my sun salutations, I imagine that I'm here at Kitskoti, and I imagine that I'm standing out there in that field facing the direction you see me in, which is obviously east. And I imagine that I'm standing with the ancestors, with the whatever you might call them, the druids, the wise men of the past, the Hermetic adepts, all of the great and wonderful people that you might look up to and aspire to be like, that have lived over the ages. You imagine that Well, I imagine that we're all standing there in white robes, you know, taking in the glory of the sun together. And it's a really nice feeling. I really recommend doing that. It leaves you feeling kind of empowered with a sense of connection and ancestry and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm thinking about doing like moon salutations as well. I might have to implement that in myself in some way or another. It was actually full moon yesterday. It's in Scorpio at the moment. Currently a Friday. Obviously keep an eye on these things. Anyway, then comes the magical eating. And actually I forgot, the first thing I do actually is as soon as I get up I drink about a pint of water on the recommendation of Martin Fawkes. He mentioned in one of his videos, just drink a pint of water straight down, but that water will be obviously magnetized with, you know, the properties that you require to go into the astral matrix. Yeah. So then you do the shower, then the salutations, and then you go down to breakfast. And it took a little while to get into this one because you're so used to eating with a load of noise on, and it's quite a tough nut to crack actually to get in that frame of mind. But basically hold your hands over your food, and if the food's hot, I take it you don't magnetize but you impregnate. There's a kind of distinction there. That's the way I understood it. You can magnetize with the coldness of the water element, and then you impregnate the kind of the akashic essence of anything that might be hot to lukewarm, if you like. A subtle distinction, more in the imagination, which is entirely valid, of course, because that's where we all are, as terrible as it is sometimes. We are all in the imagination of this this creative consciousness. Anyway, so you project again the properties that you require into the food, and then you imagine them going into you as you eat and you drink and this kind of thing, and drive off to work. And you see, there's 3 different kinds of meditation. First of all, there's the thought control. I haven't got the book with me. Was it thought control, where you simply observe? And then there's the can't remember the exact terminology right now, but was it thought control? Suppression of thoughts was the last one. Do you know, it'll come to me as soon as I turn the phone off. That's what happens when you're on the spot. You know, you just. Anyway, the first one is the watching of thoughts. I did that for the first week because I've already put in a lot of time on meditation over the years. It didn't take long to get back into the swing of things, so kind of cracked that nut in the first week, got back into the swing of things, and the mind starts to become less chattery. You know, you get better at it. First time I did this, it's a lot harder. So, you know, it is like learning to ride a bike. You never forget, you know, the ability once you've done it. It's always there to be, you know, to be utilised again. But yeah, it took a little while for the mind to quieten down to its old standards, if you like. So yeah, the watching of the thoughts, and then there's so I'll do 20 minutes of that in the morning, and then when I come home in the evening, bearing in mind anything that you eat, that you do you charge it with the desires and that kind of thing, and just generally thinking about who you are and what you want, and being self-critical. Obviously that's where the making of the soul mirrors comes in. That's something that's kind of on your mind, and especially for me, it's like, I mean, there's aspects of my character and my lifestyle that do present certain difficulties, and I know that in certain aspects my lifestyle has to change. So I've purposefully been extremely disciplined, but there, there are certain questions that are kind of left open for me that, I kind of just have to kind of roll with. So there's things that I feel like maybe I should feel bad about that, but I don't, well, anyway, so far so good, right? So so then we come to the concentrating on one specific idea or image. I think the first time I did that, I just imagined pure white light, brilliant white light. And I do these ones for 10 minutes because they're the watching of thoughts I'll do for 20 in the morning. So then I'll come home, I'll do 10 minutes of visualization of a specific ideation. I think I did, I've used an apple before, just the image of an apple, try and see it in every detail, kind of revolving around it and trying not to think about it, but just there's an apple and you're holding that in the mind. A candle is a good one, just the image of a candle. I tell you what, the candle one, wow, I got into a real emotional state with that one because it's like there's darkness and then there's just this light, like the fire element just radiating out from the head of the candle, and it was, I don't know, it just really struck me emotionally, that as a kind of metaphor for the creation in a way, the almost like the emanation of Shokbar coming out of Kether, to be caught in the darkness of Binar. Yeah, I really recommend that one. That was a very, very beautiful experience. And sometimes I just imagine that I'm here looking out across the field because I know this place quite well. I've imagined Orion up there in the sky and the full moon and the clouds on a nice cold winter day just blowing across the sky. And it's really nice just holding one particular image. It's a very, very beautiful experience, but obviously it's difficult, and your mind tries to wander off, but eventually you'll crack it and you can keep something as good as damn it there. But you see, the thing is, even though I say step one is finished, it's not like you're going to stop doing these things. It's done to my satisfaction. And then the third exercise with the meditation is vacancy of mind. Now, this was a really big blockage point in the past, because how can you think about nothing if you literally just thought about nothing, if your mind was completely blank? I don't know, there's this notion that you'd just be, you wouldn't exist. You would, how can you come back from that point? The way I kind of got around it was, when you're watching thoughts, you're just observing, and then the thoughts start to calm down. So it's not a massive leap from observing a very still mind with not much going on in it, more than just a feeling, to deciding to ignore that feeling. And in that blankness, especially in that state of mind, the breathing is, because breathing is an unconscious act. If you're just breathing, it's not something you have to think about. So you just are being, you are breathing. I've already made a video about meditation in the past, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I'll probably find that and upload it at one point. It goes into a bit more detail. Anyway, so vacancy of mind done to my satisfaction, where I feel that I was open to any impressions that wanted to come my way, if you like, to the point where I started experiencing, visions, like a particular symbol would come in, or I might hear a conversation between a couple of people, something might happen, and this happens to me quite often on the edge of sleep. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that. I'm trying to think. With the soul mirrors, obviously you classify them and then you start making a judgment upon where they exist in the elements. And what I found is that my air element is so extreme compared to the others. The others were kind of pretty much the same. because you know, when it comes to, you know, problems with, you know, like you know, bad attitude and, you know, a little bit, if you're a little bit of a loose cannon sometimes, even though you know you're doing it, it's nothing too serious, but we all have our moments, right? So, you know, you can put these kind of things down in the you know, the fiery aspect, the watery stuff, you know, emotional stuff. You know, maybe sometimes just feeling, you know, a little bit down and, you know, a little bit wistful and emotional. You know, we're all human, yeah. The earthy one, you know, it can be lazy sometimes. But then you get like good points on these. It's like, you know, assertive and got a lot of get up and go, you know. The water, you know, I'm very good at connecting with people emotionally, you know, and listening and talking, which will come into the air, you know, that particular aspect of that. And as we move into the earth as well, you know, I mean, I run my own window cleaning business. I'm not lazy, really, you know. I mean, up and down the ladder all day. I come home and I'm still doing this, and you know, I've made a lot of music and art, and you know, I've got something to show for my time on this rock, yeah. So, you know, sometimes you have to cut yourself some slack, yeah. So what you end up with is, you know, a proficiency. Obviously, because I've done this before, it only took me that, you know, about a couple of weeks to get right up to speed and crack the vacancy of mind thing, which I hadn't done before to my satisfaction, but I feel that my previous experience had really helped with that. The soul mirrors, I never completed that before, and my air imbalance, you know, I don't stop talking, right? If you get me on the right subject, yeah. It's funny because I did a long operation focusing on Mercury in the form of Hermes Trismegistus when I first got seriously into magic. You know, I was trying to, you know, invoke this particular force within myself, and I had an experience on psychedelics in that period where I literally saw myself as being Saturn at the center, and then Mercury was like orbiting Saturn. So you had like grumpy, you know, Saturn in the middle, and then Mercury like quickly orbiting, and you know, Mercury was teasing Saturn. He was going like, old man Saturn, old man Saturn. I was like, God, that's like, you know, that's quite a good analogy of, you know, of some of the core aspects of, you know, the way that I function, because sometimes I found that very bizarre contradiction between being someone who's very, you know, like scholarly minded and, you know, disciplined and, you know, quite grumpy and realistic, and would tend to limit myself and, you know, an interest in history and time and, you know, all the dark things like, you know, heavy metal and, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, quite solemn, you know. I remember when I was younger, someone said to me, God, you know, your face looks like it's carved out of stone. And then there's the other side, which is strongest for some reason in the morning, around about 11 o'clock, and then it comes back in the later evening, which is it's full on Mercury, and it's got me into a lot of trouble over the years. But you know, I like this combination. They balance each other beautifully, and if there's a limiting aspect of Saturn, you know, Mercury is able to fucking well break those chains, you know, and you know, I can safely say that, you know, at this point in my life, I've experienced, you know, many wonderful and terrible things that someone who was perhaps a little bit more sensible might have, you know, held back from. But I'm glad that I did that, you know, because it's all done with a good heart, you know, or you know, under the instructions of Broderick Jr. down there. But you know, we have a beginning with this. You know, I've just had an alert come up that the battery's going to run out soon. So, you know, taking it really seriously. And like I said, this began in earnest, again, with an absolute confidence that not only do I have to do this, but I will do this, after, you know, having a kind of astral zap experience, which it wouldn't be right to talk about that on video, but maybe I'll write that down someday or something. And a very peculiar dream experience that happened a couple of weeks before that built up. I mean, I've said before, I think I might have said before on video, the reason I got into the whole Bardon thing in the first place was after listening to the Poke Runyon podcast, which I didn't take a lot of notice of. I found it very interesting. I was reading the chapter on Binar in Dion Fortune's Mystical Kabbalah maybe a few weeks later or something. And it was very late, very tired, but found the chapter fascinating because how it relates to my experiences here, you know, at the Stones and this kind of thing. Found a resonance, obviously, with being with that very strong Saturnine core, you know, being, you know, an Aquarius, if you like. Yeah, Aquarius, Scorpio, rising Uranus in the first house. Fucking hell. Mercury, I can't remember whether it's exalted or whatever the terminology is, you know, some kind of thing going on there with Mercury. So, you know, looking at your chart is a really, really good thing to do. You know, you'll get an insight into yourself in the same way that you do with these soul mirrors, you know. So yeah, I know that my Mercury, my air, is a little bit too much sometimes, so I may or may not do. No, I will think about that. and what was I going to say? Yes, yeah, we've got the soul mirrors, and all right, yeah. Reading the chapter on Binar, fell asleep, and I had absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever. Don't expect to be believed, but anyone on this path who's had similar experiences will know that you know, angelic visitations, they do happen. I had one. I'm confident that it was the archetypal intelligence of Binar herself, an old woman with long white hair, one red eye, one blue eye. Right eye red, left eye blue. Obviously, you know, your fire and your water type thing going on. And immediately it was like, I knew as soon as I woke up, it's like electric magnetic. That's the Bardon thing. That's this apparently, you know, full training system in Hermetics, and I need to get that in my life. And you know, obviously it might not have been exactly the right time, but years later we come to the right time to take it extremely seriously. So on that extremely serious note, I will say Franz Bardon's Initiation into Hermetics, step 1 complete to my satisfaction. Thank you very much, and stay cool.